Yeah, I did not. First off, I did not expect this to be something worth watching. Apparently, it is. There's quite a bit of information there. Because the top comment is like what they talked about, and then they just go through and share all the topics, and the topics look quite interesting. So sometimes I would skip an SCL if it just has no relevant information, but apparently it does. So yeah.
So like with the quantum drives, one of the bigger components, especially if we then take the extra 50% that's needed for the jump drive
as well. Yeah.
Like if you actually look at the interior of the center body, there's no space left in there. It's so thin because of like, and then you've got fuel in there as well.
You got stick it on the back. Yeah.
Makes the ship bigger.
Makes it bigger.
Fits less places.
Carry it out the front in little arms. Right.
Well, we could just reuse the ones from the mule, right?
Yeah, mule arms. Yeah. That works. Yeah, or quantum ring.
Not like the ones from Star Wars.
Star Wars ring.
So my issue with doing so, because I saw them talking about that on Spectrum. My biggest
they fixed the sound.
How would they?
I was like, I can't really hear
so
them.
If you think about how big that is compared to the actual fighter that Obi-Wan uses, like how would you get that into a position to be used? Because they're big, and so for argument's sake, that thing itself would also then need everything it needs to power it. Because we can't put a quantum fuel tank in the ship, because why would there be a quantum fuel tank in the ship? Means that would need quantum fuel tank, it would need its own power. Granted, it would work, we could do it from a tech standpoint, but like, how would you ever get in position? And then once you've done your jump, what do you do with it?
So you do a big cannon that fires.
Yeah, big slingshot on the planets.
Straight catapult.
What if we just move the whole body forward, and then we've got more space at the back?
Oh, put the wings further back.
Yeah, so the canopy front could align with the front of the wings, and it's just like...
I don't get why he's arguing like why you can't do the Obi-Wan quantum thing, because you take it with you. Right? Like you bring it out, it's on the parasite ship, whatever, and then you bring it with you. I don't get it.
How can you say that as an artist with a straight face?
It's just not painful. You just have to then make every other ship bigger to then fit the Fury into. Now the Fury.
But the UK, sure, that's a scale every ship up 20%, right?
That's fair.
No.
Well, is it the whole idea? Yeah, your argument is that the quantum drives are too big, but don't we determine how big the quantum drives are?
I don't think it's that they're too big. It's snubs play a very particular role within the game. They're not designed to be used as the same as fight.
I can't sometimes with these guys. The roles that things play in a game that doesn't exist is my favorite part of Star Citizen video content. These guys explaining the roles of things that don't exist.
Small as possible to be able to take them into much smaller environments, and they're cheaper to...
Much smaller environments. What smaller environments? You've never created one. What, a cave with nothing in it? Like,
operate, maintain,
I don't know, man.
Run, because you don't have to have everything to support the quantum drive. Yeah, well, not disposable, because I mean, there's a person inside of it.
That's what I was going to say.
Disposable, it's cheaper. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same...
And then the argument of cheaper, when, what did we just do? We lowered claim timers. We lowered the cost of running a vehicle. They have never changed fuel. They've not done anything. I know that's not this guy's fault, right? Like, this is the brief he gets, and then he makes it work. But my God, like, after all these years, how are we still like this disconnected from what the game is as a player? Like, why are we still so far away from the basic features of cost, like, you know, the cost of living or whatever in the game, the cost of playing.
Conversation I've had with people in the past where they're like,
crazy.
Oh, well, why would you not just use the best ship to do something? By best being like the biggest ship, whatever. If I was...
Because you do that now, because there's no cost to anything. So that's why everyone's saying, why wouldn't you do that? Because this is a guy who's going, I understand the vision of the game long term, at least in right now, but then immediately, like, we're all sitting here going, but you haven't done any of those things. The perfect example was inside Star Citizen yesterday about the weather. Like,
doing
shut up.
a pizza delivery in my local neighborhood, I'm not going to do that pizza delivery in a tank.
Yep.
I'm going to do it a little Vespa because of the fuel costs, right? But if I'm having to do it
I'm going full in there.
Purely down to
down the road,
Good way to get views on YouTube.
but like, if I'm doing it in a much more dangerous environment, I'm not going to do it in a little Vespa. I might do it in an armored vehicle, right? So it's about bringing the right tool for the job. So
Yeah, there's
once
no
again,
pizza
snubs,
and there's no customers.
they serve a particular purpose and role within the universe. They're not designed to compete on the same level as fighters at everything. But that's why fighter is its own category compared to snub fighters.
Yeah.
So why is it cheaper to run about in a Caterpillar than a Kraken?
Well, it'll be cheaper on the Caterpillar than the Kraken because we're talking capital grade components and the maintenance of them will be much, much higher. Granted, it's not something people massively have to worry about at the minute, but like eventually you're going to have to repair them, install the costs and fuel to operate. It's going to get much worse.
Fair enough.
It's going to get much worse. I mean, I think that that's kind of a good thing with what we've been hearing about the claim timers is like, that's what's supposed to replace them. So do that instead. Right? I don't know. Like, we really need a patch where we add no features and we fix a lot of the problems, like whether they're bugs or they're just like total zero, tier 0 implementation that just like makes things barely functional. Like the idea of insurance. Like we heard Dan Truffin at not Beacon, Con 42 say that insurance is way too powerful right now. We need to reevaluate it and all those things. It sounds like it's him or his team that has to do that, the way he made it sound. I don't know, but it sounds to me like that would be something that's really good. Fuel was what? 2021, I believe, was tied into quantum, if that's even really a thing, you know?
Don't give him that. It's BS. You decide how big the components are, and if you want to put one on there, you will.
If we can decide how big the components are, why don't we just make them all tiny and have them be flying?
That'll make Alberto so much happier.
It's just a seat strapped to as many engines as we could find. Just leave it.
I mean, that's
there.
basically the Fury, though, right?
That's
It's just like a seat with everything else strapped behind
We've
it.
taken it to as
Some
much
wings
of
to look cool.
an extreme as we can right now.
Yeah.
All right, John, can we make all boards only 2 centimeters big? Cubes, right? All identical, this big.
I mean, on the plus
about how many
side,
components
that'll
you
make the
can fit
doors a hell of a lot
I
easier.
think how many components we have to redo.
I remember back in the day we talked about having like the vehicle, ship components and vehicle components, and then like suit components that were going to be like SD card style, like. That's what we need.
components.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
You could fit vehicle components on
Suits.
Max.
That's why Corey's carrying around his car's air conditioning at the moment.
What is this show, by
I
the
would tell you
way?
the same thing I tell the narrative team. You're all just making it up. Just make it up so it works.
When the narrative team make it up, that makes the rules. When everyone else makes it up, we're just making stuff up. But they have the right to go, we just made it up, but
I will say this. These guys look like they really enjoy working together.
that's not a fact. Because they're the narrative team.
Until they change it.
Yeah, no, they're quite good at that, aren't they?
You ready to start the show?
Sure.
Oh, we're
Hi,
ready
everybody.
to start the show.
Welcome
Okay,
to
cool.
what's the name of the show? Star Citizen Live, the Invictus, 2953, all ships, Roundtable, and
It's not round.
Triangle table.
Triangle Table.
Is it trying?
Well, technically, it's one. It's actually a hexagon.
Kind of like a show.
It's because technically,
Number
it's
sides.
one. It's technically there's the 3 sides, and then there's the other 3 sides that are shorter, and then that's 6, and then there's these ones that are 7, 8.
It doesn't have a Q drive because it's a
actually an
snub.
octagon. It's just very weirdly shaped.
They just said it was a snub and that's it. No Q drive.
Long hour.
As you were saying.
We got there.
I'm here by myself today. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and we're in week 2 of Invictus, the yearly celebration and event based on the military vehicles of the Star Citizen universe. Joining me on the show this week is an esteemed panel of vehicle experts and Corey Bamford. Starting to my left, we have
Done him there.
Immediate straight on Corey.
He's sitting there minding his own business.
Why are you coming at me like this?
You could at least pick on Dan.
You're getting picked on today.
Fair enough.
If you haven't figured it out already, it's going to be one of those shows. Joining us
yeah.
to the left.
I can tell you this though, I am officially burned out on Invictus. I don't care anymore. Like I'm just so at this point, like I am so over events. It's not even funny. I don't want to see a dynamic event. I don't want to see anything. I just want the game to live by itself for a little while because I don't even know what the game looks like anymore.
Ben.
Thanks, good, yep.
Ben, tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Ben Curtis, I'm the Vehicle Art Director for Star Citizen on the PU. I look after ships and vehicles and weapons.
Okay. And to my right, John Crew.
Hello.
Who are you? What do you
I
do?
got to move all over.
I'm the vehicle director. Once again, being on camera so many times in the last 24 hours. It's like...
Yes, but while you're on camera in the last 24 hours, we actually filmed those ISC things. Like I think it was March 29th when we
Yeah.
did those.
I think my
It was
best
a long time ago.
Yeah,
And
so-
they've all just
would be
come
to
out.
be like
Yeah.
down here a little bit more.
And you had to, there was a lot of like, do I remember what I said? Can I see it? Because I don't remember what I said.
There
I
was,
always forget
lots
I have
of,
this other
naming
scene.
changes as
Hold on.
well.
Yeah.
Between when we filmed it and when things went out. So
Yeah.
Did you have to dub it all or something?
Bam.
did nobody notice?
No. Oh man, I wish we'd done like a really bad dub over the top of it. So every time the word Misk was said, it's just like Mirai.
Yeah. That would be
Mark, tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Mark Gibson, I am the lead vehicle content designer for
What's the lead vehicle
spaceships.
content design?
So I run the vehicle content team, making sure that the ships come alive and work from a design and functionality standpoint.
He's being very polite. He tells the artists when they're doing things wrong.
I do it a lot.
So send your letters to Mark Gibson.
He's the guy who
Manchester Goodyard. Corey.
Hey.
he's the guy who had to fix the Corsair engines, I guess. I don't know.
Dan. Who are you? What do you do for Star Citizen?
You really got him there. I'm Dan. I'm a vehicle artist here. Most recently worked on the Fury. You probably saw it like a week ago.
Completely by yourself, I heard.
Yeah. Nah.
One man up.
All right, no one
He's
else
so
got credit.
young.
Sorry, we're going to do a little insert on this. So we're filming with Dan, and this is back in, like I said, March 29th or whatnot. And Dan is who was in here in this studio, and he was able to make it. Alex could not make it into the studio for the filming. So Dan's talking, and doing the interview. And during the interview, I'm like, this is starting to sound like Dan is the only one who built the ship. And so I asked Dan, I'm like, Dan, you weren't the only person who built the ship. He goes, no. And he went into this awesome, amazing, lovely tribute to Alex. Alex, who's on the vehicle content team.
Rest in peace, Alex.
He goes off and starts talking about how Alex took him under his wing and how Alex really guided him through the entire process, and it's all really sweet.
Did
but
Alex
at the end
die?
of it, we realize it starts sounding like Alex is no longer with us. Like Alex is alive.
Okay.
And so we had it in the cut, and then through a miscommunication, it got cut because somebody thought him sounding like he was dead was a problem, and so it didn't make the final episode. But Alex, what's Alex's last name?
Williams.
Alex Williams.
Rest in peace,
I hope you're
Alex,
watching,
dude.
Did an amazing job on the Fury.
You killed him off for real.
And we will have you on the
Tribute to Alex
show
Williams.
At some point when you can make it. All right, and then
The
Chris.
Fury in memory of Alex,
I'm
yeah.
Chris, thanks. I'm a vehicle content designer too, so I'm one of the team members that Mark leads.
Cool. And go ahead, Corey.
I don't even know if I want to now.
Just get up and
Let's just
leave.
move on.
Yeah.
Well, we find his mic's been cut.
Let's just
since
move
the
on.
beginning.
That's Corey. Corey's there in the middle.
I'm just here to vibe, really.
So if you've never seen one of our All Ships Roundtables before, it wouldn't surprise me. This is only the second one we've done. We gather some design.
So knowing Jared, well, actually, I don't know because Jared does this stuff to me, and I don't really think Jared likes me very much. But if Jared does that, it means he really likes you usually. Make jokes with you and stuff like that. He knows that he can play with you because he knows that you're cool.
And some vehicles from the Star Citizen feature and content teams.
You can
And
roll with the
we
punches.
discuss as many aspects of Star Citizen's continuing vehicle development as possible.
I think he does that
We
with
did
a
put
lot
up
of
a
people,
thread
though, so I
earlier
don't
this
know.
week and collect some questions from you, the backers. We chose the ones that were voted up most, and that this collection of people could answer. We'll get to those in a little bit. Before we get started, I want to start with a forever question. I'm going to start with a couple forever questions, things that every year, as every year goes by, these are the questions that always exist, and because every show is somebody's first show.
Night vision.
First discussion point: is there such a thing as too many ships? And
Yes.
I'm going to let you start with this
Dude.
one, John.
Holy shit! Before they start, like from their perspective, they'll give you their perspective. How do you guys feel about this? Because I actually have to get Week in Review done today for a special reason, I guess. And I'm looking and I'm like, there are so many ships. It's actually ridiculous. And these are only the military ones for the military. There's some that aren't very military that are being sold, but it's like there are too many to just comprehend. And like, how are they supposed to balance all this? It's nearly impossible. It's crazy. It's already hard now to balance all of them between each other, and they are continuing to add them. And I see a lot of you guys in chat saying about the backlog. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. More ships, more variety. Why is every miner a prospector? Yeah, like that's one of the things that where I think you can argue that it's not. But then at the same time, the difference here is that it's not like a visually appealing thing, and it's not an in-game sold ship. So here's the problem with them continuing to add ships, is they sell them for real money. So they've already sold the prospector. So now they have to sell you on the slightly more expensive, slightly more interesting Drake extractor. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be, like, let's say that's the next mining ship from Drake. And then they're going to have to figure out how to make it a little bit better than the prospector, and therefore you buy it, right? Because they've already got your money for the prospector. And that's sort of the problem here. It's not a choice that they've really given the player. It's always this, like, but this does that, and that does this. And it's always like there's this difference that has to be there. And it's always, at the time of the ship sale, it's always like this thing that has to be so important. So that's kind of why I feel like maybe there's too many. And just the sheer, like, list of ships is daunting for a new player, I would imagine. How are they going to understand what's going on, right? And all that stuff. It's just very weird. So,
No.
of course not, because now he still has a job if they don't have too many.
When there's too many of the same type, like
right? If there were too many ships, none of these people would have a job.
Have I forget the exact number
because they wouldn't
now,
need
but
it
it's
anymore.
200-ish.
Oh, we're at 197 now.
Close. I'm thinking in the future.
Yep. 197 that have been announced and revealed.
So far.
And hopefully at the end of this show, still 100.
No guarantees.
Sorry, Elliot. Just preemptively.
It didn't work out last time we did one of these. If
Sounds
we
like
had
Jared's boss's
197
name is Elliot. I don't
light
know.
fighters, that's too many light fighters, I think. But when you spread it over all the careers, all the roles, or the progression within the roles, I think there's certainly room for.
Oh God, progression within the roles.
Anybody with an opposing
What's
viewpoint?
that?
Can you have too many ships?
Would you still say that if there were 197 different manufacturers? And there were 197
I mean, technically
styles of light
not.
fighter?
No, if there's 197 manufacturers and each of them wants to do a light fighter, then there's going to be some very close, similar attributes beyond visuals. But in that very specific instance, no.
Yeah, but like when you use that as like the real world example of like cars, like there's I don't know how many, like, cars look so similar, right? There's like sports cars, there's SUVs, right? But they all kind of look same but different. And if you use that example, the difference is that they're being made by all different actual companies where these are being made by the same people. I don't know, man. And the difference there is in real world, like comfort and how it feels and the audio system, or I don't know, like what's important is because you could touch it, it's more tangible. And then in the game you can't, like luxury, right? Like you can't feel luxury in the game. So like my argument with the luxury vehicles or the luxury ships is the only thing that value that they provide is for personal transport missions or something, right? So it's kind of weird.
I don't think so.
That's not enough ships.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes down to as well, doesn't it? Because you have a whole host of different manufacturers and a whole host of different roles, and not every manufacturer is going to deliver every role. And yeah, I think that's fine, that's fair. I think there's also a lot of space in our universe for things that aren't necessarily like straight off the production line, right? So we're bringing these new systems out, and you don't expect them to have like every system to have it's got a new manufacturer in it and it's got this, that, and the other. But I think there's definitely scope for more.
I'll apologize for their audio now. Jared said he was by himself. Their audio's not the best to begin with, but I mean, some people are significantly lower than others. There's going to be no way to make this properly listenable. This guy is incredibly loud while this guy is incredibly quiet. I can't
ships, so
I can't solve this problem.
Certain manufacturers, or they might have started out as a particular thing, but they've been retrofitted and
I can try and
kept
raise
alive
them
over generations
as they speak.
Yeah.
And then the moment Red Shirt speaks, lower it. I don't know.
Yeah, like things that.
Oh no!
Jalopy?
No, not again.
Jalopy?
Not again.
That's my role.
You've got the cutter. What more do you want?
I'd agree with John on that. Like, even within subgroups, it's important to have like even very similar ships to each other, because every manufacturer will do it a little bit different. So, and every players for the most part have manufacturers they prefer, and certain
That's
traits
true,
that
though.
manufacturers do compared to other ones for certain people.
Like, I prefer Drake in a lot of ways for the industrial stuff. Like Drake or Argo, and like the Vulture, I love. I really want a Vulture. Sorry, a Vulture-like mining ship. Right, I'm dying for that. I'm so pissed off that it wasn't an option, and that RSI won in that vote.
Yeah, small military, etc., etc. So, having multiple of a similar type across multiple manufacturers, I think that's fine, because it gives people variation about what they want to pick. There's not one type of a state car.
I want more mining
ships.
ships.
There's not one type of sports motorbike in the world. There's a variation because people like different things. So if we had 50 Argo single seat mining ships, then absolutely. But having 5 or 6 across multiple manufacturers all bring little bits and pieces to the table.
Did he just say Argo single
touched on a
seat
point that-
mining ship? We don't have one of those.
I'm always interested in, there's this idea that the manufacturers all
Is
have
there
to have
one
their
being
own
created?
distinct identities and all have to adhere to that stuff. And then we introduce things like, well, here's Misk doing this other thing, and they create Mirai, and so that they can still kind of keep their styling but still experiment. But in the real world of automobiles and stuff, you see a car come out and influence a dozen other brands. Like when that new Mustang came out back in 2008.
A mining
and then you
snub.
saw everybody from Dodge and whatever all try to do their version.
Funny, right?
Yeah, but it's like, is there room in Star Citizen for a manufacturer to look at something another manufacturer is doing, and maybe for Anvil to try to do a Crusader style ship or something?
Yeah, I mean, don't see why not. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of our stuff is based off cars. It's going to be a very British reference, but you have like Vauxhall cars, which is Opel in Europe, and I forget what the actual name of this particular brand was, but basically the Saab 9.3 is a Vauxhall underneath.
Right.
And at the time, they own the same companies, and they're like, take the car, you can change the bodywork slightly, and make it a Saab.
Yeah.
And Saab just ignored that and
You
didn't.
look at like
I mean, I think for Star Citizen, it's pretty simple. Is you just do it like exactly what they said. If they're going to keep making ships, you, instead of being influenced by like look, it's just influenced by like the unique role that a certain ship came out with. So, the Prospector was the first ship, and then Argo comes in and they make their solo miner, and then Drake comes in and makes their solo miner, and so on. Or something. I guess similar with the Antares and the Mantis, right? Like, I don't like that idea because they're always power creeping. Instead of keeping it the same and allowing the player to choose the manufacturer that they prefer, that's almost the exact same roles, very slight differences. Instead, they like power creep it and be like, well, yeah, there's a guy in the turret and you get more blah, 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 there's more guns. It's just better, right? That kind of thing is, I wouldn't copy and paste ship stats, but I would tweak them very slightly instead of this insane power creep.
Was it Porsche that, Porsche always made racing cars or sports cars and everything, and then they brought out the SUV, that done all right, and then like now we've got Lamborghini SUVs, we've got like all and they're like, oh, that's selling all right. We'll have a cut of that pie. And
I don't think we have either Vauxhall or Opel in the U.S.
We're making sports cars, they're making giant 18-wheel trucks, they're making TVs, and it's like, what's that brand identity?
Making air conditioners.
It's like a lot of that's one of the things I like about like the racing stuff of like the Razor and that. Like a lot of times, car manufacturers will take something from their like racing kind of pedigree and then implement it into the normal like Quattro with Audi and stuff like that, and like Porsche with the flat six and things like that. Like they kind of get informed by their adventures. Like I think the Ford GT was like a massive push as well, like where they tend to use the racetrack as a place to experiment what works and what has got brand appeal.
The cost as well. They can take technology away from that and put it into the mainstream. Then that.
So more modern MISC ships will probably steal a bit from Mirai if it worked and what didn't work, and less experimental stuff, but some of the new direction.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to MISC and Mirai specifically, like I think there's a real there's a hard distinction for me. Like MISC are kind of very utilitarian, very they've got a purpose, they've got a role, they've got a job. Whereas Mirai is definitely like the performance division. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anything that doesn't necessarily fit into that sort of industrial feel. Like I think MISC is a very very strong art style, and very happy with where that. A very
erect art style.
And even if you take things like RSI, and you take some of our old RSI ships versus our new RSI ships, they progress over the generations of their vehicle releases.
Strong and erect.
Hundreds of years or
many hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Stand attention.
Of course, people have their own ideas about what these brands are. You see it within the community. Every time we introduce a new ship, they're arguing: is that really a Tumbrel? Is that really Crusader? That doesn't look like a MISC ship or whatnot. Yeah. These conversations happen internally too, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you remember a keen disagreement where you were making a vehicle of one manufacturer and just somebody was really vehemently against it? That's not that manufacturer. It's got to be somebody else.
I mean, remember the Redeemer?
Eel's an easy one.
Kind of split the wire a little bit, didn't it? Yeah. But, I think kind of like the functionality.
Dude, I went back and watched my mule video because somebody was like, please do more things like the mule video. Like they talked about it. That video's old, and they put it in the comments like 2 days ago. Like they remember that and they loved it because it was like right on time when the mule came out, and it was just short, sweet, and to the point about what it was and what it did. And looking back, I still have no idea why that thing exists. It makes no sense. Like zero. Sure, it can hold an SU in the back. What are the arms at the front? What do they even do?
The mule leads more to Drake than necessarily it is quite a high-end vehicle.
And then the best part is they realize that 1SU boxes are bad. So now what is it? Now what do you do with it? What do you even do with it? That's the best part, is what do you even do with it? You take a 1SU size box and you place it next to the ship so somebody has to tractor beam it in anyway? Oh my God, it's so dumb.
Drake, it feels a little bit more refined.
Just put a tractor beam on the front of the mule.
For the mule came from sort of what we see now in tractors and combine harvesters and that sort of thing. And that they are very purpose-built.
Remove the arms,
so they kind of
put a tractor beam.
Sort of that brief. But they are just a little bit nicer.
Melkor the Wise is like, the mule is high end.
Well,
for Drake.
Compared to the Drake ship.
Yeah, compared to like some of the other Drake ships.
It feels more kind of Argo-y in a sense. It's like you say, like plant machinery.
Yeah, like if you look at the interior
Yeah,
is
it's
all sort of
Argo.
like molded plastics, and there's whereas if you look at the interior of some of our Drake like spaceships, they're
Very stripped back.
yeah.
Screens
Very
falling on the floor.
basic.
Screens on the floor, like helicopter seats, that sort of
The
style.
the Vulcan concept was Anvil for probably 80% of its concept development, and then
Then it moved
got
to
towards
Aegis.
the end of it like it's sort of not particularly Anvil-y anymore. It's getting towards Aegis, and then like the whole cockpit bit of it changed to be more like the front of the Reclaimer.
Right.
And
I still think the Vulture looks more Argo.
Well, the big dirty secret is that there aren't 15 different manufacturers making all these. It's
Yeah,
the people
exactly.
at this table who are making them. And so, you've got to put your brain in, okay, I've got to put my brain in Drake mode, I've got to put my brain in Crusader mode, and sometimes the brain just doesn't want to do what you want it to do, and it will push you, towards whatever these other manufacturers are. And occasionally that leads you to invent new manufacturers when your brain just wants to do something completely different.
Like I remember just before I moved on to the Fury, like I'd spent like a little bit of time on the Corsair, like helping LOD it, and like my entire visual library was just Drake, and then it's like now you're doing like a MISC racing ship that's kind of Mirai performance kind of thing. Like we weren't really sure which direction it was going to go then, right? And it was like every time I modeled anything, I went square, I went big bolt, and Ben was like, no, rivets, metal, like chrome. Like I was like, okay. And it was like every mechanism was more Drakey until I like remembered like the direction of it, right?
And I want to jump in there before the person goes to Reddit. You just referred to the Fury as a racing ship. Obviously, the two variants that we just released are not dedicated.
No, I meant like nippy, like they're fast and stuff like that, yeah.
Just before the Reddit thread started.
Yes.
Although we did discuss the possibility of exploring new variants. Let's talk about that real quick, because this is the Invictus show. And
You thought about yesterday, I feel if they had resources to have one team for every manufacturer, the style would be perfected. Yeah, but they would also never keep any employees because they would get bored.
whatnot. Let's take a minute. It's my show. We'll do whatever.
They already struggle to keep artists
Pitch me a variant
for this stuff.
So,
it
so
seems.
John, for those of you who maybe haven't seen the show or whatnot, during the Invictus, the Fury segment last week, John said that we're open to exploring additional variants of the Fury in the future. We're here. We're live. Yes. Hi. Put you on the spot here.
He still does
Pitch
the
me
thing.
a Fury variant, just off the top of your head. If you could make any Fury variant, what's the first thing that comes to your head? Here.
Boarding variant.
A what?
Boarding variant.
wait.
So the front of it, the actual circular thing at the front would actually be to the small docking collimatric. So once you disable the ship, you could just slam into it, it opens up, force open the...
I feel like you need to turn the dome round, the donut, so it's like facing that way. So it kind of goes this way instead, and then you just like...
You'd be
Well,
quite
you could just have the
lackluster
tube come
boarding
out.
party, though.
Well, you disable the ship. If you've got one of them in your ship, you can then use that to get over. So you don't have to EVA over. You get in it, you fly over. It's really maneuverable. It's really good handling. Go on.
The problem is like how many docking collars are there, and the whole point of this thing is it's supposed to be like 20 of them or whatever that you have, right?
So you either have it with wings, and they're basically the claws, or
Latch on.
without wings, and it just gets shot straight out of Jeffrey's tube.
Oh no. He's done it.
No.
Again.
No.
But in essence, yeah, that would be mine, because then you could use them to forcibly board and try and take over other people's ships.
There's only one of you. I guess
but-
you'd have to send a lot of them.
You're the weapon.
Yeah, you're the weapon. Do you not have faith in your
Be
own
on my
yes.
own. Does it detach once you've got out? Or
No,
is
it stays attached because you've forcibly docked yourself with just like what's the other one called? We made
Legionnaire.
Just like Legionnaire, but single-person Legionnaire. So you forcibly dock with the enemy, you force you into the ship, and then you try and steal the ship.
immediately
Yo, I love that. He doesn't even remember the Legionnaire because they have no plans of even touching that thing.
shot and then they all.
Well, if
They
you're just
sold
not
a
that good
picture
at
of it
FPS.
and then
All right,
throw it in the
that's Mark's
fucking
pitch.
pile.
We can't spend too much time on this. Corey, what's your pitch?
I was thinking short-range cargo/transport kind of thing for zipping about.
Put cargo in
Well,
the Fury.
You could work something out, right?
Where would
With
cargo
no
go?
quantum
You're the
drive.
artist. You'd have to do it. Where are you thinking of?
I think it's the same thing as the mule idea. Is you just put a tractor, like a vehicle tractor beam on it or whatever.
Putting cargo.
I mean,
Some little arms, like a little submarine, you know,
yeah,
little
you can give it like a little arm.
Or just strap it to the top like the family wagon.
Yeah, the roof bars.
Oh, can't put it on the top because that'll block the fuel port.
You don't need fuel. Just put some zip ties on it. It's fine.
That's fair.
All right, Chris?
People transport. Take the guns off the wings and strap on some drop seats.
No way.
I did see that Reddit
the
post
Fury
that you
DS.
can actually get two people in the cockpit.
Oh God.
You get one person to sit there.
That is like the number one reason I was like, I do not want to put a room volume on this thing.
Yeah.
But I know that I have to. Somebody is going to just crouch in here.
Yeah.
All right, Dan?
Salvage. Yeah, definitely.
Salvage Fury?
Salvage
Yeah,
is the
definitely.
perfect.
That'll be well cool. You change the top.
Salvage or mining, honestly, are the perfect roles for it because all you have to do is just add the laser instead of the guns, and it's just a small, maneuverable little, can get in large ships, maybe in salvage pieces of them.
Two guns for like salvage arms, and then the bottom two could like instead
That's
of
the
having
best
like,
example,
we have,
I
like,
think.
two size 1 missiles on the inside, you could put like that's where it gets stored or whatever. And it
But
just
where would
creates
you
it.
put the material?
It would be mounted on the inside, so then you just nip out real quick,
Oh.
mine it, and then drop.
I don't know if I would use. Okay, so hull stripping isn't salvage to me. Sorry, they're two different things. Hull stripping is hull stripping. Salvage is actually removing stuff. So for me, it would be like cutting out a big piece of metal and bringing it to like your reclaimer to munch it or whatever, right? Or cutting out a big component and bringing it to a cargo hold for, repair and maybe applying it to a new ship, something like that. That's where I see it, like big floodlights. I believe if you guys remember the what was it? The vertical slice of Star Citizen. Remember the cutscene where they go, or Squadron 42, where they go to the reclaimer, and there's the big reclaimer, and I feel like there was like two little drones that are there. I believe those drones are still a thing are supposed to be a thing on the reclaimer. Instead of drones, you have these like little single-manned pods, right? That's kind of where I was at. Yeah, I mean that vertical, whatever, right? But just that specific scene is kind of where I see a ship like that. I think it would be cool.
Or whatever, and then like throw them.
Not like a chain of saddlebags,
Yeah.
trailing behind you as you're flying.
The idea is that like you deploy so many of them that by the time you'd filled up, the other 20 you had with you would have already got it. You're like locusts flying through. There you go. There's your name. The Fury Locust. There it is.
All right.
I mean, that's
just
the
a
best
reminder.
idea out of all of them, I
Views and
think.
opinions. Those of Platinum Premium Games, Robert Space Industries, or its subsidiaries. Ben.
I don't know. Everyone's told them the good ones. I'll go boring and go racing.
I promise
but
nobody's
think-
taking the good ones.
Yeah, going racing though, I think it just needs to just have one massive engine on the back of it and some really little wings. So it's just basically like a rocket.
A racing variant.
Yeah, like a rocket.
How'd you get the power plant?
You just don't worry about it. You got a pit crew for that.
Yeah.
Well, no, we can use the Gian Tech, right? So it can be like a little floaty ball thing on some arms behind it, and it's like a really massive, great big engine that comes down and lifts up and
Your vehicle art director, everyone.
strap yourself to a rocket.
Ship it.
All right, John, I don't want to pick any of these, so you decide.
You don't? They're all
They-
gone.
Pick one.
This is how we do it.
Oh, we're doing it live. Okay.
Melee version. 4 big spikes.
You're saying this because you saw Adam made this
Yes.
morning. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
What?
So this morning, Adam scaled up some of the
It's a combat
FPS combat knives, the one that looks like it's partially a chain
To the size of the wings.
and he put them on the wings, so it looked like it had 4
Knives.
bladed, knived wings, because with the size of the wings, and you just ram people with it.
That would work great with your docking idea, though.
There you go.
Point.
I would
Combine
say,
them.
along with the melee idea, though, back when I
Ramming
was trying
in
to make
Star
the
Citizen.
Grey Cat PGV fly around and everything, I had actually put giant fists in the front. Remember the old Superman Hot Wheels
Yeah.
toy that for some reason
I mean,
Superman.
the Vandal's scythe and the other one, they have knives on their ships.
And had a spaceship and had giant fists that flew out.
The
And I had
glaive,
Hosmer helped me, but I got a Grey Cat PGV to fly around, and it had two giant scaled up arms with fists in the front, and it could just fly around. So I mean, I feel like we're on the same
Yeah.
wavelength, man. I feel like
We can make it happen.
I feel like we can make it happen.
Submersible variant.
What?
Don't start the
Submersible
spaceship submarine
variant.
argument again.
Yes.
All right, so we're about halfway through the show already.
Seriously.
Let's jump into some backer questions. So these were questions that were submitted on Spectrum and voted up by you, the viewers, and in no particular order here.
Here we go. Oh no.
Saw this one coming. How do you expect to work through the backlog of ships? And at what point in the game can we expect larger ships such as the Kraken, Polaris, and Perseus? Now, this one's a when question. But let's go with the core here. How are we expecting to work through this backlog?
Cool. I'll start, and then others can chime in if they want. So the last year or so, we've been really sort of improving and just making the pipeline work better. Mark and Corey have done a great job revitalizing all the documentation that sort of I wrote years ago and we've just lived with. But because I've done more and more leadership and directorship, I've not been so hands-on with things. So they've taken that over and built the pipeline. The last few ships we've released have gone through sort of that new pipeline and things have mostly gone smoother. Still doing some tweaks as we go. But ultimately, at the end of the day, big ships need a lot of resources to make them. And where we want to get to is a place where we're still delivering the same amount of content as we do now a year, as well as 1 to 2 capitals a year on top of that and supporting all the other teams like we do. And at the end of the day, that just needs more people.
Okay.
So you want to get to the point of delivering
Yes.
1 to 2 capitals of ships.
Yes.
You're not saying that we are at that point, right?
We're not at that point yet. We're building to that point. So the last few months, we've been starting to expand the team, which people have probably seen with the introduction of the Montreal vehicle team. And we're also...
guys, this goes back to the Bandu Merchantman thing, right? That's a non-answer? No, it is not a non-answer. So it is straight up saying we don't have enough people to do that. And here's the problem that I find with that answer, though, is that what's the solution to that is hire more people. Well, people cost money. How do they make money? They make more ships. So it's like we're still going in the cyclical motion of the ships are prioritized over everything else. We design the ship before we design the gameplay, and then everything is dog shit because of it, right? And it's because how they have to fund. So if they add more people, they're going to have to add more ships to sell, like more new ones, and then still always have a bigger backlog is what it kind of seems like. Because if they're still putting out new ones, when the reality is that you're constantly getting new people, over time people smarten up and buy less ships because they've hit their limit, or they've realized this game is never coming out, or whatever, right? And it's kind of like, what is that really the answer? I hope so. Like, for me, that's like a sufficient answer because you can't really argue against it, right? It is what it is. They with the Banner Merchantman thing, they lost like a few people, it seemed like, and that was it, dude. That thing was done for, because now look at all the new faces you see on the screen. That kid is like 12 years old, right? Like he just out of school kind of situation. So yeah, dude, Paul Jones was a big loss. I think Paul Jones took people with him. I don't know what happened there, but all that timing was about at the exact same time. I think Paul Jones left, everybody on the Merchantman went with him, and those were the best guys, right? And these guys here seem great, but those were the G's, those were the guys who they trusted to do the big stuff. They don't have those guys anymore. So now what? Now they have to spend all this time training them or whatever. So yeah, I think that's kind of what happened. I have no fucking idea, but it just feels that way, because the moment this dude left, Bandu Merchantman falls apart, everything's done. Like, it was all timed around the same place.
Looking for more artists in the UK, so if people are watching,
please
apply.
You know any good leads?
Yeah, any lead artists watching?
Replace Corey.
Yeah, give us a shout.
A little plug.
Yeah.
They need lead artists because
it's not
they
uncommon. A lot of
they need people to make big
these
ships.
shows do serve multiple purposes, and they're absolutely, from the conversations that I have to have with the talent acquisition team every single week, they're definitely a hiring tool.
Run the ads and basically just run
This is the ad.
our page.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're presenting to these people who it would be that they're working with. So
I think they're presenting well. It looks like a fun group.
it's too late now.
I think, like, just to touch on that as well is people kind of think it's easy, right? You want more spaceships, you hire more people, and done. Like, it's this 10 more people, you can do 3 more ships. But there's obviously a lot of time and effort goes into like training up staff and making sure staff are, we're growing the team is quite a difficult challenge, especially when we've got like leads that are already at capacity, and then we're like, okay, we want to add, we want to double our team, and okay, well, we can't still have like it goes from one person that's already trying to juggle like 3 or 4 ships at once to then going, okay, well they can now juggle away, and it's like it's just not sustainable. So we have grown the team quite a lot in the last kind of 6 months to a year. We've started a new team in Montreal. We're looking to grow a second team and probably a third team in the UK.
Okay.
So yeah, like we're expanding, but it does take time. And
Yeah, there's a misconception that, like you said, you just add more people and instantly more.
My issue with this is why wasn't this done 5 years ago? Right? Like, that's my issue with this, is why wasn't this done 5 years ago? Why did we just come to this realization now? Oh, guys, we don't have enough people. Money wasn't there. Shut up.
Things get made.
Yeah.
But the reality is, and
Money
this isn't just for
wasn't there.
vehicles, this is for any discipline in anything. When you have to
It's literally how
teach,
they make
when you
money.
have to train, when you have to onboard, your production gets slower because you now have to slow down everything that you would normally be doing in order to
Except, Brett, they
explain
don't even know what the
everything
target
and make
gameplay
this
is
work.
now.
And
Like,
then,
these
things slow down
arguments.
before they get faster. And this is with anything, not just vehicles, whatever. And then, God help us, the person doesn't last. The person does, goes and finds a different opportunity, or just, they interviewed well, but the reality wasn't. And now that slowdown has yielded no positive results. So it is definitely a process. And yeah, so we talked about this Montreal team. The next question from the backers is literally, what is the purpose of the Montreal team? Are they
To
dedicated
make
to like a
ships.
specific type of ship? Is it?
I think it's a really dangerous thing to get into if you have multiple teams. Pat myself in the face. If you've got like multiple teams and you're like, oh, you're the A team and you're the B team, or you're team this and your team that, and it's not a case of that. It's the way we prioritize our ships is we get our ship priority, and that comes from John and the execs and all the important people, and then we look at what resources we have and what people are best fitted for, and then we allocate work that we feel confident that people can achieve. And like if we had a new team come in and we're like, hey, we got some capital ships for you, here you go, you're not setting that team up to succeed, you're just setting them up to fail. Realistically, our big capital ships take a sizable team to
okay,
deliver.
so you have the same problems as every employer ever. Yes. But the problem is I think the people above them are the ones who make, like, this is the thing that I don't necessarily like, and I don't like Chris on camera. I specifically hate Chris on camera because he just starts going off on tangents about, all this stupid shit that's never going to happen, or is nowhere near the time scale of where we are now. And then we end up just getting debated like we always do. So they throw these poor guys in front of the camera, and they're not the ones who make decisions. Like, I guess, somewhat here and John Crew, right? I forgot this guy's name, but somewhat these guys are like the directors. They make some decisions, but above them, I feel like it's always like Chris, or it's always Aaron, or always like whoever's at the top. Mark. No, this is Mark. The left is I'm not sure the name, but somebody's telling them what to do. They still have a boss. Yeah, Ben Dorsey or something. But yeah,
actually, we're getting them on board to kind of help, fill out some of our backlog ships, help do some variants of existing ships. We're at the moment just trying to kind of, like I say, onboard them. They've been going for
April 1st is when they officially started.
Okay, yeah, a couple of months now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're kind of, they're getting up to speed. They're doing a fantastic job of learning the ropes and understanding our processes and pipelines, working through a few ships that will be coming out at some point, and then we'll put on to something bigger.
Well, that's the other thing. They're a brand new team. They're not massive. It's not like they're anywhere near the size of the UK ship team.
That's how an organization works. Yeah, but I'm just saying everybody's getting mad at these guys when they're not the ones making the decisions. They're the ones who have to make it work. Right? That's all I'm saying.
If I remember correctly,
I'm aware of how an organization works. Thank you.
Is it 4 artists maybe?
4 technically.
4?
4 artists technically, but one's in the UK at the moment.
Yeah,
and yeah, one designer who was here for the last 2 weeks.
I've worked in billion-dollar industries as management, as upper management, and as front of house kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm perfectly aware of how things work.
He's doing his onboarding. Right. He's literally on a plane now back to Canada to carry on with those guys when he gets there.
And when you get a brand new team like that, it's not even just them learning how we do things, because obviously every team does it. Like the way you build an environment isn't the way you build a ship, and the quality and the techniques and everything are massively different. So like if you've got a brand new team coming in, you're not going to throw them on a ship that's going to take them the next, for argument's sake, 18 months to develop, because like the quality in their work over that 18 months from when they first start to when they get towards the end is going to massively change. With the larger ships, you need people who are more experienced, who are already embedded within the pipeline, because otherwise you're going to have such an inconsistent experience across the actual ship.
It's just, and also, the ships, small ships can be complicated, big ships are complicated. It's all fairly complicated stuff. But like I say, when you get to a capital ship, there's a lot of unknowns there. I do think we've got Jason, who's come across from the environment art team, and he's got a whole wealth of knowledge on building environment art assets and building out those kits. So he's got a huge amount of knowledge there we can lean on for building out our capital ships. But yeah, like I say, sticking someone on something for a year and a half when they're initially you want to.
You could tell by the stuff they delivered is they don't have anybody to make big ships.
Yeah, if you under your belt, learn the processes, touch lots of different areas of the ship, do interiors, exteriors, and just learn everything basically.
I think another point as well is that in general, for interiors, at least the quality of what we receive in like pre-production is generally spread a little bit thinner. So the interior concepts for capital ships are generally like key art and some fairly like vague.
Turn the volume up a little. Okay.
So like the production team.
I already said some people are low, some people are high. It's impossible.
Whereas if you
Hopefully
have a smaller
better.
ship, generally the interior concept's a lot stronger because there's just fewer things to work on, right? You get a lot more detail, a lot more to work from. So yeah, I'd say like definitely you have, coming into production, you have sort of fewer things to figure out on smaller ships.
The other thing is with if you want to move on, the other thing is with the capital ships, once we actually put them in, we want to try and we want to try and build them in a way that makes it easier to then do the other capital ships of that same.
Guys, I want to highlight game developers and game development, but then when they talk about game development and I'm not in frame enough, I get upset. What is that?
Okay, keep going. No, do the other ships of that exact same manufacturer. So like once we do one RSI, we want to set ourselves up so that we can roll into the others a lot easier. So instead of having to reinvent the wheel every time, we have stuff as a foundation to just move it forward quicker.
Yeah. I'm looking at chat here. Forgive me, we're limited crew. My entire crew got sick, so I'm doing everything myself. You see my buttons and everything. So if you're wondering why somebody's talking and the camera's on somebody else, that's me. Explain me. Where was it? Thorium Jim says, it's so painful listening to these excuses. What do you have to say? Are these excuses? Or are these...
We're looking for artists and lead artists and everything. Want to come shout out, do it better? You're welcome. So let's go to we got next two questions are some of those perennial questions here. First one is ship modularity.
Yeah.
I actually like that answer. Sorry, I was very thirsty. I had to go get a drink. Like, dude, shut up. And that's kind of what I mean, is it's not their fault that people left. It's not their fault that they're continuously getting thrown spaceships at them, right? It's just like, if you think you can do it, then you do it. Shut up.
I need to read it, do I? But it says, has there been any progress on modularity since it was last talked about?
Yes. good news at last.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll be the
Good
judge of
news.
that. We'll be the judge of that.
So,
You ready, chat?
are you ready,
Eyes on the
chat?
chat, guys. Come on.
So with the development of the Hull C, we've pretty much figured out the last hurdle. And in fact, Chris is responsible for the test that I got him to do for it, where we can have object containers, which is the interior collection of assets, loaded as an item, loaded onto the ship, because that's how the rear of the Hull C is attached to the ship and moves with it. What had stopped us technically going any further with this was items inside those object containers couldn't talk to the vehicle it was connected to.
Right.
So the example of the Retaliator, the torpedo droppy arms, they're actually part of the exterior of the ship currently, because that's the only way they can work. So if we allowed you to swap the modules, no matter what
Is that why landing gear always stays when a ship explodes? Probably,
module
right?
you had, there'd be a pair of torpedo arms dangling through the middle of it. Chris did a test where he attached a load of missile racks and torpedoes to the inside of the back of the Hull C, which is not going to ship with it.
Wait, you're saying we're not
Unless we
having a
accidentally
torpedo
did it.
Hull C?
Yeah.
There is a shelf that says "Do not submit" in very large letters.
And the pilot had full control of that, and they could fire them. So after the Hull C ships and we found any more quirks with that setup, we're in a position where, to my knowledge, touch wood, technically there's nothing stopping us doing modularity now. That was the last big hurdle
There's nothing stopping us doing modularity except we don't feel like doing modularity right now.
for it.
There's nothing
Yeah, here we go.
technically stopping us from doing it, but there's
nothing-
also priorities and
It might be
things, and
logistics.
building a team.
Nothing technically stopping us.
Yeah, nothing technically stopping us. Yeah.
So what I heard was that whole CMX at Citizen Con.
Oh, yeah. Just full of size 9 torpedoes.
All of the cargo arms are just full of torpedo racks that just fire out.
All right, next one. We're just going to put the camera right on John Crew. Physicalized damage. This has been one of those.
nothing.
You know,
They'll just say nothing
when we
about
talk
this.
about things that hold up this system or that system, the idea of bullets and ballistics and then passing through and damaging the components within a ship has been linked to be the keystone to so many other developments. Anything you can tell us about physicalized damage?
Good news part 2.
Good news part 2.
So it is really under heavy active development at the moment. So
Oh.
the physics team have done a lot of work in the last 6 months on it. We're now at a point where other feature and gameplay teams have joined them to sort of work out the quirks with it.
Okay.
The vehicle content team have provided assets of ships set up in this new way of doing things. Should caveat this, it's not a vehicle thing, it's an everything thing. Every
Oh
destructible
my god.
system in the
Apply it to FPS armor, please.
game
Right.
will use this. So whilst everyone sort of uses the vehicle example of like, oh, bullets going through ships, it replaces the prop breakable system, it replaces the environment breakable system, it replaces the vehicle damage system. There's another one I forget. So
Wait, it was a
environment
cargo
teams, prop
elevator?
teams, vehicle teams, we're all working on this at the moment with a bunch of use case scenarios that are
I just
with
saw the
engineers.
cargo.
More like an overall destructible physics system.
Yes, yeah. People have probably heard the
shit,
word
it is an
maelstrom
elevator.
in various monthly reports and pieces.
Checking whether that's legit or
It's
not.
not a ship.
I didn't realize that.
Right.
So that's the name of that overarching system. It's definitely been said.
In all offense, it's just the name for the system
Yeah.
that they already knew was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the
but,
internal project name.
But by giving something a name, you give it power.
but it's more than just the physicalized damage for ships. It is a global destructible physics system that we're not going to sit
listening to
here
it. I
and
was listening.
commit to it
Maelstrom.
being applied to every single element of Star Citizen.
No.
There's always going to be performance.
Here's the deal. Talk to me when it's not in active development. Talk to me when it's coming into a patch. Okay? Talk to me when it's coming into a patch. Then I care. I'm very happy that they're working on it. That's very exciting. But as a 10-plus year Star Citizen backer and a veteran of following the game's development, there is zero sense in getting excited by any of these things, because guess what? They are excited to share with you what they are actively working on. And guess what happens? They hit a hurdle. They hit a snag. They go on to something else. Blah, 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 right? And then we hear nothing about it. And then we get mad and they don't know why we're mad, right? Because look at what good news part 2, it's an active development. What does that mean? Right? That means that to me, physicalized damage should be coming within the next 6 months to a year. Right? That's what that means to me. When you say actively working on, we are trying to push this thing out to you guys now. Otherwise, don't talk about it, right? Because that's not what's happening. In the next 6 months to a year, I don't expect to see that. And yeah, like, come on. So those are the things of, like, just remember, active development doesn't mean that it's in the game dev branch or the 320 branch or the 321, because we know 4.0 is never happening, right? So that's how I need to look at this for my sanity. And I could tell that most people in this community are just as insane as I am, because everybody's starting to lose their minds on this stuff. Is it on the roadmap? The progress tracker? Please.
Considerations, but you develop the system and then you start to see.
Beta Merchant was also an active dev. That is like one of the few times that I think they've ever been honest with us. They came out right away and said the people that were working on it quit, and now we don't know what to do. Like, that was one of the only times I felt like I wasn't bullshitted. So I never got mad about the Banu Merchantman. You know what I mean? That was like the only time I felt like I wasn't being served bullshit. And today I feel that way too. I think these guys are pretty open and pretty honest about things. And I do appreciate this specific style of video. They seem to be very comfortable. And that's good. But unfortunately, the answers we hear sometimes are not what we need, you know?
Where you can plug it in and apply.
You'd find use cases for it. It'd be like a general system.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Chris.
I don't know. Titan
Let's see,
Trigger.
what else we got?
Marketing.
Ship tractors. Ship tractor beams were recently brought up again. What's the state of these and their large cargo counterparts?
So the ship tractor beams, we've done a... Can I talk? Yep.
Yeah.
Just like John to make sure it's okay.
Yeah, that's so
We've
funny.
done a lot of work with them recently. We have current implementation set up on multiple vehicles that are meant to actually have the tractor beams attached to them. Their current implementation works from a vehicle setup standpoint. There's still some remaining work to do from the actual EUPU team. They're actually delivering the vehicle tractor beams themselves. But right now, in the environment we've developed it, you can spawn the ships that have them in and use them. Another big bit of confusion is because the sizing, when we did some of it, we did it to
EUP is like the people
weapon
did mining and
sizes
salvage.
instead of component sizes, whereas EUPU have done their development on it. They've decided they want to go in the direction of component sizing rather than weapon sizing. So some of the size numbers will have changed, but how much they lift is consistent for how much we've always wanted it to lift. So, for example, instead of going all the way up to I think the biggest one we ever said was like size 6 or size 5 or something. The biggest one now will be the size 3, and we might do size 4 if we ever do something for a very niche situation. But
The SRV is
the
a
SRV
3 now.
is a 3, but that 3 is able to move ships. But size 2s can do 32 SU containers. I can't remember how much size
Whoa.
1s and 0s do, but
Okay. So let's bring this up again then. Along with these larger containers that we saw in the sneak peek, that pretty much is locking in the idea of big cargo is going to be a thing in 320, I think. It's sort of coming together of like what their plans are for 320. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but yeah, I believe this is a 32 SU container. So a size 2 tractor beam will be able to move those, and then the size 3, I don't know if he said it, but I would assume it is the SRV that moves ships.
We've just reformatted it as the system's start formalized a lot more. But yep, on the ships, we've got an implemented version of it working currently.
As far as the vehicle content team is concerned, like we've done a pass on the artwork to ships that were supposed to feature a tractor beam. We've now added kind of supporting geometry for them and made sure that like it actually
That's
works,
exactly what he said. Okay.
Yes, that's the
Caterpillar.
Caterpillar.
Yep.
Caterpillar's got
Nomad,
2.
Cutlass, 315p.
I think we saw this image of an Argo that had a tractor beam on it too, and I thought we would see it sold in this sale, but I guess not. So I don't know.
I feel like there's one more.
I feel like there's one more.
Was it?
Connie Taurus.
Yeah.
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 On its,
We didn't
lower
really
turret.
do anything for that one though, but it was kind of a freebie, right, for now. But we want to
For now.
probably at some
But
point.
like
with the
we've done
turrets.
proper geometry integration for the ones where there just wasn't any, because there wasn't any on the Cutlass, there wasn't any on the 315, there wasn't any on the Nomad. So there's proper integration for them now.
There was
Cool.
stuff kind of hinting it, but it wasn't.
It's
It
proper.
wasn't like legit, so to speak.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually
Yep,
like.
Cuddy has tractor beam ports
utility mount
in the
with a
back, I think.
Actual
Yeah, so they're now
tractor-
proper
tractor
turrets, so you
on
can
it.
swap to the view and use
Yep.
them and move boxes and things.
How's the golden standard for the Retaliator going? We'll get to that point where we do some updates on ships general, but this was a highly voted question.
It is in progress. We're working on the cockpit at the moment, bring it up to modern standards because it's a bit
Yeah.
old-fashioned, I guess is one way to say. It's not really
It's
got
old.
MFDs to the right metrics anymore.
Right.
Doing it for Squadron first, and then it'll work its way into the P when we're happy with what we need to do for Squadron.
Squadron first when we're
Will there
happy
be a
with
way to
Squadron.
dock a reclaimer to a station in the future to avoid needing to go down
Resident
to the planet
sleeper.
to retrieve it?
So we wanted that originally for the original implementation of the docking collars, but we found that
All right, so they said docking with the reclaimer to stations. Is that going to be a thing?
the current positioning of the arms and the engines were off, so we're going to have to go in and fix that, as well as I think we found the actual doors were the wrong size as well, so we need
The
to
door
sort
is
them
just
as well.
some
I
random
think we looked
door.
at that and we did some work towards.
No, we wanted to do it. We just didn't have time when we
Yo,
were
the
doing all the
reclaimer
other,
needs so much
docking
work.
collars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's wanted, but it's going to require changes to the exterior, the physical arms and everything, which are very complicated mechanisms. So it's a big time investment. So it's something that's going to get done, but it's when we can find resources to actually do it. Because, like you said, with the ramp up, every time we try and expand the team, we're losing resources to actually train the new people that are coming in.
So complete rework for the reclaimer. Retaliator. I'm just kidding. I was trying to make a joke and then I got
Eventually,
the
you
names
would
mixed up.
There's certainly a lot of room for improvement with the reclaimer.
Like the rear cargo.
The moment you see this shift away from one SCU size boxes, the moment you realize that everything in that cargo bay that you were creating the salvage in is likely going to have to change, like, completely. I think that thing needs to be completely cut out and redone. Like, you can leave some aspects of it. I think the mess hall and the very alien areas of the ship were fantastic, but everything else needs to be redone. I think that was like one of the bigger mistakes. I never said this, but Montreal should have never made those emissions in that ship because they were going to need to redo everything in it anyway.
Lift and everything needs
Yeah,
probably
the
doing.
whole rear section of everyone's favourite multi-stage elevator
Wait, did you say Starfire or Reclaimer?
reclaimer.
Both need to be
Starfire's
done.
perfect.
Starfire is not perfect.
Starfire is having its insides pulled out, redone completely.
Can I watch that? Can I watch?
It sounds hot.
Absolutely.
It sounds hot.
So we have personal feelings too. Let's see. We talked a lot about the capital ships. Things like this. One of the most voted up questions here is about the Polaris. Simply put, is the Polaris actually in production? It shows that it is on the progress tracker, but the Apollo was once on the progress tracker at one point as well, and priorities change, and yada, yada, yada. So we'll go to Camera John here. There's one. Camera John. There we go. Oh, no, that just sounded like Ben wanted the question.
No, I didn't.
Good, Ben.
No.
No, you were talking crap.
it's only
Okay,
fair.
Ben.
All right.
So is the Polaris in production?
I'm going to start with the Apollo.
Let's talk about capital ships and when they're in development. So Apollo.
The Apollo's now a capital ship.
Yeah, it got bruised
Oh my
so much.
God, Sponge, your shit.
All right, we'll talk about the Polaris. So the Polaris is I'd say it's more in pre-production. Like we are spending time investigating at the
Pre-production,
moment, as
okay.
we've already kind of hinted on. When it comes to doing our capital ships, we want to make sure that we're tackling them in a way that allows us to scale up to not just do one capital ship, and we can tick off a few more from the lineup. It is like literally the last couple of weeks we've been looking at it, breaking down the concept, breaking down what is involved with actually delivering it. I think what people need to understand as well is, this is quite an old ship. The concept is quite old. There's a lot of gaps in it, as Corey mentioned. So really, we're just doing our kind of
Pre-alpha.
our sanity check on everything. Make sure we've got everything in progress. It will
Guys,
be going
guys,
into full production.
They're getting their sanity check. How sane is Armored Sponge, the Polaris is his favorite ship? What level of sanity are you, sir?
Very soon.
Shortly, yeah, very soon.
Very soon, TM.
So
Production
Chris
very
deleted the
soon.
old interior setup level for it this afternoon, ready for the new one. So that's how
ready
soon
to
it
go.
is.
We are working.
Okay.
on it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
there
it is-
isn't a full team on it yet.
Okay.
We're doing the pre-productions.
That's
that's in the pipeline last time. There's been a lot of pre-planning changes to help us further, not have us trip over ourselves. So it is in production in that sense.
yeah,
It's
it
just-
hasn't started like
artist hasn't
white boxing.
cracked open
Yeah,
maps,
like, we haven't started
making the walls.
adding assets to the editor and stuff, but we are basically doing a full breakdown of what we've got, working out how we're going to tackle it, trying to get the plans in place, and answer the questions. There's some holes in the concept which we could do with a little bit more work on, and they're a bit loose. So it's just kind of breaking down that stuff. But we haven't got a team of artists that are working on it. We have one, and then I look at it every so often, Corey sticks his nose in it, and it's just, it's us we want to come to a point where we can come together, have a proper kick-off with the team that are working on it, and go, okay, we know what we're asking you to do, rather than being like, hey, everyone, let's have a look, click, this is cool, yeah.
Okay.
And to touch on the roadmap bit, something that often gets overlooked on the roadmap is it doesn't particularly show people moving on and off projects.
Nothing gets overlooked on the roadmap. It doesn't communicate well. We're not overlooking anything.
Or tasks. So you could have someone on the Polaris for 1 week and they go off it for
It's
a week and then they go
illegible.
back on it for another week. That will show as 3 weeks continuous. Or you could have one person come on, one person go off, then another person comes on, and that will show two people for that
I'm not even looking
entire
at it.
time. In conjunction with that, as part of all of our pipeline work, we've been moving away from our previous scheduling method, which is what the roadmap uses, to being more in Jira. And then, because that live updates with the data as we're working through things, and then at some point we go back and put it in there. So there is a bit of lag in how the roadmap updates. So yes, people have been working on it, but it's not like hey, we've got 8 artists
So don't
working
read the
on it
roadmap.
since
Okay.
2 weeks ago when the roadmap said.
Good. Thank you.
I
Why
was
do
gonna
we
say,
have it again?
with the Apollo, because the Apollo was mentioned as well, that's pretty much what we've done on the Apollo. We had one artist working on it, doing all the pre-production work, making sure it was in a good state, answering all the questions that were unanswered on it, so it's ready to go into production. It is not in production. Yeah, we haven't got a whole team of artists working on it, but we've done all that preliminary work, and that's why it's been on the roadmap, because someone's been allocated to it, they've been chipping away at it and getting it ready.
All right, let's see. Next question says, some ship designs have flaws with component swapping. How will this be addressed on lazy ships, and especially where components won't fit past doors or airlocks and things like ladders? I was just gonna look at Mark instantly.
Yeah, I can go with it. So a lot of that's what gold standards for. So when we go through and do gold standards, using the Retaliator as an example, a lot of the components wouldn't fit through the doors of the Retaliator as you tractor beam them out and move them. So the doors and things have been widened so they would actually fit. Another thing is what components are actually meant to be taken out with tractor beam. So it's size 3, and capitals obviously aren't meant to be tractor beamed out. You're supposed to go to a dry dock and someone else will take it out for you because they're too large of components to do, because theoretically to get to them you need to cut parts of the hull out because they're just too large for a person to lift. So the size 0, 1 and 2, you should be able to tractor beam out.
What do you mean dry dock for size 3 components? So I have to take a Carrack and bring it somewhere else to salvage it? I can't salvage it where I am? What did I get a reclaimer for? What do we have these big things for? That's kind of That's a weird concept to me. And again, I think that's like, we don't want to actually make the game properly because we didn't make it properly in the first place. Therefore, now you have to do this thing that you shouldn't have to do. Right? It's kind of weird to me. How did it get in there in the first place? So I don't understand that one. I'm sorry. That one is like the salvage feature should be brought up to a level where you can cut out a large component and pull it out. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't like that one at all.
Doors that don't fit currently, gold standard will address that, but until we do gold standards on the interior.
I think they mean for changing components, not salvage. For salvage, you rip the ship apart. Okay. Okay, I guess. I buy that. Okay.
Interiors of a lot of the ships, there may be doors where you can't get them out, or places you can't get the components through.
There is a couple like random occasions where like we get like as artists like, oh, can you jump on this ship for like, you know, it's like a half an hour fix to allow you to get your components out your ship, and like we have those. We've got all of the ships like divvied up amongst ourselves, so like even though people leave and people join, there's like the list of all of the ships, and it's like, okay, you're responsible for these. So if there's a component swapping issue on like a particular ship, that like one of mine, I've forgotten which one it was, but I had to like remove around a little bit of the room. Nothing players would really notice, but like it's just enough to make the collision a bit more comfortable to move it out. So you get occasions like that where you'll get like a random like bug come through, and it's like, oh, if you've got a spare 10 minutes to do that, you quickly look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a really quick fix that will hopefully make your lives a lot easier. So we do try to, even though we're like, you know, I'm on this ship for X amount of time, I will disappear for like an hour or two if it saves you guys the grief, you know.
Yeah. It depends on the amount of work, right?
Yeah,
so like,
yeah. If it's like a massive overhaul, like obviously that takes
none of the doors.
But if I can like sneak it in, like I'll try, you know.
Some of it's really quick wins, like when the ship was initially modeled, or when someone created a component base, they just forgot to like cut a hole in the collision for the components. So it's literally impossible to remove.
I don't know, man. I'm still thinking about this. Like, do you really think, did they build the ship around the components? Like, how did they get them in? Right? Should there be a hatch on the exterior to be able to access them? Like all capital ships. Should we move where components go? And should they be on the exterior of the ships? They probably shouldn't be on the interior. They should probably be on the exterior. Right? A hatch of some kind, yeah. Like, I don't know, man.
Because it's like behind the collision of the exterior, for example.
I think, like, you know, a lot of our ships were made before we had, like, there was no feature work had been done on it, so we didn't know how we were going to tackle it. So we were just making the best decisions we could at the time.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
And now we know better.
Yeah.
So that pipeline has evolved. And
yeah, the thing is, this
some
all
of the
ships based
some
on
of them are
looks.
like, this door has no animation.
Yeah, but like this is a game. Like we always take the looks over the game in every scenario. And I'm just thinking of like, if I want to swap out, like what, like the best answer to this problem, or the best question to this problem is, what happens when my power plant dies completely? We've talked about physicalized damage. What happens when my power plant dies? What happens when my quantum drive dies and it's big? I just can't replace it. So that's kind of you know, now you 100% need to tow it every single time. So that ship I have to have. It's kind of weird, right? So I don't think the answer is tow it, actually. I think it's maybe add some complexity to repair and rearm so you can jumpstart it and get it going so you can get home safely, but you know, you can't use it for very long. Something like that, I think, would be much better, right? We don't know anything, is where I'll leave this.
It has no mechanics
kind of weird
animation. There's just a hole behind it, and they're the ones that take a bit more time. You know, they need a proper art pass, proper design pass.
That's why they call it game development and not game construction.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Vanguard's a good example, right?
Badger,
Had that
I don't
little
work
railing,
there, man.
which
I don't know.
From that point, looked nice, having that little railing as you
That
go
the
up the
one I did?
stairs.
Yeah.
I think so, where you just
That was
cut the
the one I
railing
did,
off.
yeah.
it's,
Yeah, I
it's a
just
small
removed the
thing,
rail,
easier to do,
Okay,
but like
there you go.
at the
They'll
time when we
answer
did
shortly.
it, look, from that standpoint, no one really thought, oh, that railing's going to get in the way of the components because it wasn't something that people actively
Yeah,
thought
same
about.
with some of the component hatches that have doors that sort of clamshell open.
Yeah.
They were done so they open it, looks nice and cool, and like, yeah, it'll fit out there.
You can get
But then
this
when
up-
it comes to actually taking it out, they're like, they're a centimetre not far open enough.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of little things that you don't spot.
And this is the kind of stuff that happens with any video game. It's just
Yeah.
usually they don't have a live environment in the middle
Yeah.
of their development.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's kind of it's just tech debt really. Like, you know, a feature comes online, it gets proven out, and then if we have to re-implement that into a bunch of like existing assets, you know, we try our best to anticipate what kind of features will be coming, but we don't necessarily know how that feature will work. So, you know, part of the challenge of being sort of a team that's affected by a feature is you have to then retroactively support it, you know. So I think that's a big part of what gold standard is. These are all the features we need to support in our vehicles, and it's basically making those vehicles comply with those features.
We had it with salvage as well, right?
When was
Yeah.
the last
It
gold
was like exactly
standard?
the same thing where it was like,
rework?
oh, there's like loads of quick fixes we can do, or like, okay, we need to dedicate
The
some time
Sabre?
to this. And then when salvage first came online, we like had quite a few of us
did a
working
big
on it
pass.
to really try and like get that stuff sorted out. And other ships that were made maybe more recently, or whenever like particular ships, you go to fix it and you're like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Great.
It
Big
becomes
green
a
tick.
part of your,
Ongoing, okay.
you know, your validation. It becomes a part of the like acceptance criteria for the ship. Is it needs to support this feature. So, you know, we would bring those features into the like review process and basically make sure actually, if we're making a new ship, it should have physicalized components, etc. That all of the features that exist for the ship will be, you know, validated as a part of the, you know, review process. So it's more the older content that was kind of, you know, when we first started out, we were kind of discovering what a ship.
It's why each one of these that we make,
Yeah.
we get better at it.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know,
Debatable on some of these.
the rock DS.
It's fine.
The Rock DS is a joke.
Cut you off. And it's like, no, terminate it, cut them off.
Was that the emergency button?
Yeah,
Kill it.
The salvage thing was a really good example of how some things you just can't plan for ahead of time. Like salvage is coming online, we know it's going to use the UV2 damage system. We've done all that for the ships already because that's what damage does when you shoot ships. So we're good. And then when it came online, we're like,
Oh boy.
we're not good.
Yeah. Well, we didn't realise quite how much of the like the visuals would affect the actual data. So you know, the parts of the ship that were like slightly you know, wouldn't necessarily take as much damage, and they, you know, it'd look fine when you'd blown this thing up. But then it was meaning that you could never like 100% salvage the ship because you couldn't salvage like certain panels, and obviously it just
Yeah,
looks
but they're
a bit
not
weird,
trying
you know,
to
you'd be
fix it. That's the
salvaging along and
problem.
just-
This is the problem that everybody has with it. Is they're talking about this situation where, the funding model, and they made these things back in the day. They were learning how a ship works, but they're still releasing new ones instead of making the ones that you already paid for. And logically, people can't respect the fact that they're not doing that, and I think that's why they're finally building up this team. Is they're going, we have like this has gotten like they've finally hit the wall. I think where they're like, yeah, okay, they're right, and this is now hitting levels of like disrespectful to our community. We have to do right by them and make these ship, you know, gold standard ships, finish ones in the backlog, like, and make new ones. Bro, it's
stop.
so much.
And it's like, oh well, yeah.
Or when there was stuff behind it that would make you see through, like
Yep.
certain
Yeah.
component
Or salvage like the
pieces.
left wing, and then like the rear right fin would just disappear, and you're like, wait, what?
What's going on? Yeah.
No, in chat, they're debating whether I did that on purpose when I mentioned the my absolute adoration for the Rock DS. No, I did not do that on purpose. If I had done that on purpose, I would have said how much I really like the Rock DS, and then this would have happened. Let's see, we're almost out of time. Let's see how many more questions we can get in there. The C1 Spirit is marked to have an S3 tractor beam. Will the C1 be able to track smaller vehicles? And what's the difference between an S3 and an S5? This goes to your...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. It's not supposed to track the vehicles. It's prefer 32 SU cargo containers, the size 2, so it's getting changed to a size 2, but it's just part of the refactor of the tracked beam sizes.
It's still just as powerful as it was. It's just the name's changed.
It doesn't do any less or more than we said it was going to do originally. It's just that the numbering's changed because we're now doing component grading instead of weapon grading.
Does that mean it can? I don't know if I want to ask this question.
Go on, ask the question.
So if you've got like a PTV that's like super small, can that be picked up by a size 2?
32 SU containers. What was set as the maximum you'd have to ask for UPU?
Full of what though?
Yeah, this is interesting.
Gold?
That's UPU.
Water.
It's their feature.
Come on, give us the answers.
So
All right, I'll just go ask.
Is the PTV smaller or larger than 32?
Well, physically it's smaller.
It's physically.
Yeah, it's much
And it
smaller.
would weigh less.
Definitely would have less mass.
I feel like I'm getting someone into trouble here. Do the redacted thing.
Quick call Thorsten.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thorsten would
Thorsten.
know.
Can we get Thorsten on the line?
So that's confirmation that the new tractor beams will be able
But bro,
to lift
yeah.
the gray cat. Let's see.
Mining lasers are too big.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Teams messages are going to break the door down.
What? All right, you had to know this one was coming. What does the Fury and Cutter shutters mean for the Carrack?
It's not as cool.
we'll do them at some point.
No, who's taking it?
Me, I guess. So I want to put them on it. I just need to find time to do it. I was told today after learning of it, because I'm one of the newer members of the team, so I didn't actually know that Carrack needed these shutters and stuff. That's for like these guys who know it inside and out to tell me. So I was informed today, because the Carrack's one of the ships I look after. It's like, oh Dan, if you get time, you can put the blast shields on the Carrack, and I was like, oh, and you're going to say it on live as well. Now I'm going to get bombarded on Twitter until it's done. So
That's right.
Yeah, so
Get
if you
it
find
done.
Dan on Twitter, on Spectrum, if you can dig out his email address, feel free.
No, don't.
I will try for you guys, but yeah, it's just a case of time and like.
Dan doesn't dictate his own priorities.
Yeah,
so
to be
if
fair.
When we talk about like, when you jump on for like,
blame me, it's fine.
it kind of comes back to like the salvage stuff or like the tractor beaming of components. Like if I look at it and I go, oh, that's a quick fix, it'll be a quick thing. But if I look at it and I'm like, that is not a quick thing, I need to ask for some time because it will affect my other work, then it becomes
Yeah, I mean,
like
we did say that you could have a look at it and see how much work it is, and if it, if the file's already been set up, all the animation data's there, it's all ready to go, and it's just a case of we just need to export it and do it, then cool. But if it's going to take you away from the current vehicle you're on for a week or two, then
When the Carrack was developed, we did prove out.
don't.
Yeah. It's nice to fix bugs as a treat.
It's just there's
every
more
now
to
and
it.
then.
It's
that
like
needs doing.
cheap
we
win.
made sure it would work, but that's
Okay. All right. I thought you were going to say, yeah, it'll only take 5 minutes.
no. What I'm saying is,
I think he's
that
saying
we
the
just proved
opposite.
out the spacing, the animation mechanism and stuff. Like it's going to need UV2s, it's going to be LODs, it's going to need more detail and popping, all that stuff.
It's not going to take 5 minutes then.
No.
I mean,
15.
he did manage to build the entire Fury all by himself.
Yeah, I know.
Rip
On a
Alex.
single
Rip
weekend,
Alex.
in memory of Alex.
In memory of Alex.
Alex.
That's in the chat.
Let's see. A long time ago in the shipyard articles, you mentioned different component types. We talked about sizes, industrial, military, etc., and the ability to tune them. Is this still the plan? And if so, can you give us any hope for the future of tuning? Love Twingo? Oh, that's your car.
Yeah.
Twingo?
We'll talk about the Twingo for the rest of the time. It's sort of more of a EUPU thing now. Definitely plans to have those different types, grades, sort of like performance windows for different items. And they have a pretty comprehensive engineer slash tuner slash repairer gameplay proposal that they're working on as part of some of the other features they're doing. So it's sort of...
Oh god, so we're gonna hear some silly talk at CitizenCon about it, and then get excited about something that's not gonna happen again. Okay, cool, exciting.
tuning items
Here
as
we
part
go.
of that role.
Love it. It's what we're here for.
So it's definitely planned.
Yeah, with that, let's see. Anything else?
Definitely planned.
Normally, we're just out of time. Normally, we do kind of a round robin on ships
I
that
think
are
so, Void,
in production right now. Because, like you said, sometimes the public roadmap falls a little bit out of sync and stuff like this. Can you just give us an update on ships that are what you would consider an active production as opposed to like pre-production. We know the Polaris is what we consider pre-production.
Yeah.
Somebody is on there scoping out the work necessary before it moves into production. But what's in active production right now?
We're in the danger zone here now.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to slowly do it and look at John as I
Okay,
see.
you know-
So there's Redacted that's on Josh.
Yeah.
There's Adam's. Will I talk about that one?
I'm trying to think what Adam's doing.
Who knows?
Spirit.
Yeah.
Yep. We've got. I was pretty sure that one was safe. So we've got the Spirit in. What else do we have?
SLV just finished art and design.
Yeah. Obviously.
Hull C.
Yep. Hull
Just
C.
at the end, in its final teething.
We've got some
stages.
more
What's up,
Redacted that are on
Adonis?
Chris.
Got-
What else is it? What are the US working on?
X1?
What's the US working on?
X1's about to start on the US.
well, technically that's had a little bit of work done there already, but
Yeah, the Storm is storming through production.
he did it.
No, it was in the segment. It was in the episode yesterday. Oh, you said the storm is coming through. Yeah, no, we actually we missed a narrative bit. It's, again, some of the things that missed through. It's like, in case you guys didn't catch it from the episode, the Temple Storm is in a concept promotion right now as part of Invictus, but it is already in production with the LA
Well
ship
into
folks.
well
And
into production.
it's looking good.
Well
that stuff you
into
saw at the
production.
end, that was not concept art. That was the actual white box and well in the
Okay.
gray box.
I mean, I like the way that thing looks.
They're doing the Santok.
I got a weird thing about vehicles. They're pointless, which is why it's almost okay to spend money on them. Right? Like, you're not, like, you gain nothing by having them for the most part. So it's almost like just having a skin for your ship. It's like a little toy in the game that means nothing, right? So that's kind of like, like I just look at it and I'm like, okay, if you want to buy a tank or you want to buy a Storm or you want to like goof around, go for it. Because they really don't give you any advantage over anyone else, like some of the larger ships or whatever, right? So
As well.
We'll be updating for the We'll be showing you an update on the Santok Yai for Alien Week in just a few weeks.
Montreal working on some variants of an existing ship. I'm just trying to mentally go around the floor.
Pretty sure that's all of them. Because we're doing beaches
Retaliator
as well.
stuff we're doing, we talked about before.
G12.
G12 will be going, so in the next year, backlog ships that will be going into production, caveat, things can always change.
Yeah.
Polaris, Apollo, G12,
Apollo!
Raylan, X1s.
Raylan?
I'm noticing something conspicuously absent.
Don't know what
In
you're
the
talking
next
about.
year.
Ban new.
So we'll talk about the merchantman briefly, because we discussed
Railing
like
your
how
mom,
we
lol.
want to do the backlog of capital ships. So we want to start with RSI because doing the Polaris first helps reduce the amount of work needed for the Perseus and the Galaxy. So those three will likely be like a chain of dependencies from each other.
Kind of shared assets.
Yeah,
between-
there's a lot of shared assets
Like-
between them. Obviously, the exteriors are like quite different, but you do an RSI hall kit or corridor kit, floor kit, doors,
beds,
beds.
chairs.
Yeah, it all gets reused across them, maybe with some slight material differences. So there are a few things.
What's the cargo capacity on the Raylan? Like, where is it? Is it like merchantman, or is it like, or not merchantman? Is it like C2, or is it like MSR? Oh, it's like C2. Okay, it's like Caterpillar C2-ish range, more like Caterpillar range. Okay.
Things that are problematic with the BMM. Firstly,
That
everything
one's
is
so
unique.
cool looking.
Everything.
So it's not like we do one corridor kit.
Can't be modular.
Yeah, it
It's
can't
so
be
many
modular. It has to be
bespoke shapes.
unique.
Yeah.
That's
Nothing
like,
on the
if
ship
it
can be
comes out,
modular.
I'm
Every
melting something
corridor,
to
every
it.
room.
Everything's unique. So the amount of time investment.
I mean, there's some chairs, but even then, some of the chairs we couldn't reuse because of the shaping of the rooms.
So like molded something.
Yeah.
Right. There's
So like
lots of bespoke
everything.
geometry.
It was.
So yeah, we had a lot of people on there. We had some unfortunate people leaving, which they've been
There you
here
go.
quite a
The
while, so
honesty
we've lost a
again.
lot of sort of that team knowledge and part of rebuilding the team. obviously, effectively, again, like we said, you don't get new staff members go, hey, welcome to the Banner Merchantman. Here's a completely bespoke thing that does not follow any of our existing art guidelines.
Yep.
And all the time we would have put into that would be just for that ship. We get no
That's
reuse
still
from
poor
it. So yes,
excuse. It was not one guy. He just said multiple people. Just listen.
they've been here quite a while, so we'd lost a lot of
They had been
There's
here
some
quite a
chairs, but
while.
even then some of the chairing of the rooms.
So like molded something.
on there. We had some unfortunate people leaving.
People leaving. It sounds like more than one
Which-
person.
They've been here quite a while, so we'd lost a lot of sort of that team knowledge and part of rebuilding the team. Obviously, effectively, again, like we said, you don't get new staff members go, hey, welcome to the Banner Merchantman. Here's a completely bespoke thing that does not follow any of our existing art guidelines.
Yep.
And all the time we would have put into that would be just for that ship. We get no reuse from it. So yes, we will do it again, but personally, I think the time is better spent on other capital ships to get people up to speed, and then we can start putting people back on it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely a lot of love.
like listen, man. I know this feels like such a cop out, and they've said this before, but I think they want to like do the Banner Merchantman like right and have it be really good. Like they don't want to just throw people on it and have it be shit and then release it to you shit, right? Like that's just kind of how I look at it. I mean, and that's the other thing is what gameplay will the Banner Merchantman even have? It's just like massive cargo hauler that looks really cool. But what really does it add? Like I personally, the longer it takes, the more likely we are to get that like player trading hub that the ship is actually supposed to be, right?
Within the team for the merchantman. I think it's
Except for the picture Mark took of it.
yeah, apart from Mark's
Oh, Mark took
on
the
that
picture.
I'm
of
never
it?
going to hear the end of that, am I?
No.
No. Okay.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement there for it. It's just making sure that, again, like we said, that the team's set up to succeed with it, and we can actually deliver it to the standards that we expect.
Can you imagine training new people on developing a brand new art style for a ship? Because like, I generally think Merchantman's going to be one of the hardest ships we ever do, just because of all the additional factors that involve with it, the
I haven't
scale
heard
of
the
it,
600i
the
yet.
fact that nothing is really reused. It's all unique molded, all the rooms, all the floors. It's that.
It's a different
Cool
like,
art
style
style.
of modeling as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
In terms of our like actual discipline of like how we make ships.
More organics.
Yeah, it's like more like traditional vehicle modeling, like than it would be like a hard surface weapon.
Yeah, it's hard service meets or
It sounds like they're blaming people for leaving, not for having the correct standards in place to replicate the core and branch code. No, it's they're creating the standard. Like that's the thing with something like the Banner Merchantman, which is why it's so problematic. And I think why they're going to the Polaris Perseus or whatever is one of the ones that began with P, is that they already understand what those are supposed to look like. They already have standards for those. The Banner Merchantman, they were building what the standard would be to build off of. And the people building the standard to build off of left. So it was like, oh shit, what do we do now? These people left. The people we have, we don't trust to do this. So we have to build them up to be able to. You know, like this is something entirely different than anything they've ever done. So it's a little, it's different. It's weird. Like I am usually no bullshit, no excuses, none of it. It just, everything around the Banner Merchantman from the excuse standpoint makes sense to me. And I'm fine with what's happened.
organic and this
Yeah,
weird.
it's
And-
Automotive
strange, isn't it?
style.
I say we'd worked on that process and we had a good process in place, and it was just unfortunate that someone chose to go off and chase new adventures, and we wish them the best of luck, and it was a big loss to the team, but that
But then he said
initial
someone.
kind of pre-production was done and it's there. It's just we just need to get to the point where we can still deliver our current like lineup of ships we want to deliver, and we want to be able to do it justice.
Why can't they build it
Takes
out
a bit of
part by
time.
part, little by little? Because this guy, like, these are the things that maybe we don't understand. But he tried to make it clear was that the ship is so big that at the beginning, all the stuff you do is going to be dog shit, and at the end, all of the shit you'll be doing is much better. And then you're just going to have to go back and redo all the dog shit. So they're trying to train people up on the smaller things and build them up to be able to come on and do a larger ship and not have it be dog shit from the beginning. Right?
Keep on top of bug backlog.
That's what they
Keep the
said.
bug
I
backlog,
can only
the
repeat
feature
what they
support,
said.
Because we're constantly
I'm not
supporting
an
other
artist.
feature
I don't
teams.
know.
Like you've got the track. There was a lot of work with the tractor beam. There's a lot of work with the salvage, and there's other features coming online that we have to support, and all of them are time. Lots of time investment from our side to actually implement them in the ships and stuff like the resources.
We didn't get to it. One of the things we discussed about that
I'm
I
a
want to
performance
talk,
artist,
talk about how we
Van.
balance those
I might be
things.
the only
It's
one who
this.
understands that
We'll
in
do
this
another one of
entire
these
chat.
when it comes time for IE, probably in November. But there's definitely place for a
Thank you, Sharp.
in-depth discussion of how we balance that workload. The balance between new ships and ships that are already on backlog, balance between giant capital ships or ships that are an entirely unique art style versus that the same people at the same time could crank out 4 other ships in the same period of time. How do you balance that? And then of course, all the gameplay balance implications at 197 different vehicles now, and adding more and more, balancing, their capabilities and stuff. So there's a video like this that can just be all about balance, and I think we'll probably pursue that down the line because it's a
whenever
conversation
you
I really like
actually
to have, and I
pursue
think
balancing the
community will
game.
benefit from it. But that does it for today, gentlemen. Thank you.
That is not a
for
video
taking
for
the
today.
time to be here with me to hang out at the end of a Friday.
As someone with a 3D artist background, I 1000% get what they're saying about the Banu. I mean, just as anybody who's worked anywhere, like, that has to train employees, I'm not, like, from coming from the casino industry, I'm not putting a break-in dealer on the 5-card pot limit Omaha high-low game. Like, because they can't do it. They don't know what they're doing. You put them on the 2-4 limit game.
I'm going to need your help putting everything back. As you can see, there's a big, giant change to the set, so I'm going to need you here for the next 2 or 3 hours just to move furniture and put everything back. You good?
Sure.
Okay. For Star Citizen Live, I'm Jared. That was what button? That was John, and that's Corey, and that's Chris, and that's Ben, and that's Mark, and that's Dan. Enjoy the rest of Invictus. I think there's more promotions to the last weekend and stuff like that. If I had thought about it, I would have looked it up and told you about it. But
I mean, it's
I'm
Drake
not
is
good
coming
at
up
my job.
today.
And I'll see you next week. Tune in for Inside Star Citizen next week. We are talking about the resurrection like a phoenix of Arena Commander next week, and there's a lot of really cool stuff coming. So stay tuned for that. And
The resurrection of Arena Commander.
just leave it
All
there.
right.
We haven't done Corey's introduction of role.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, Corey. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi.
Yeah.
Ben, come back. Why are you not helping?
Say it himself.
Oh, I forgot to say I fixed that and do it because
No,
people didn't
say
really
it now.
mean to me.
Sorry.
So I fixed that Invictus tint, the one that was funny colours.
Everyone was complaining on Reddit about
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
What
1,000
Invictus
upvotes on
hit?
Reddit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
So it's all
everyone was
visible.
complaining on Reddit about. I love how little I care about this dumb shit. I have no idea what he's talking
Well,
about.
it's nice.
I'm going to roll it back though because everyone's been really mean to me today.
An
I don't think
adventure
I
pit.
Jared.
Chat wasn't me.
How about this? When are you going to make black actually black? I bought a black skin for my Starfarer, and that thing is not black.
Mean to you. Only us.
I saw someone actually making a remark about my beard that I found quite hurtful.
Is it that it's not impressive enough yet?
Yeah, it's not very good.
ain't even got one.
Trying.
Bro.
Yeah.
True story. The very first video I did, the very first episode of Around the Verse back in like 2014, the #1 comment was, "His beard has too many colors," and it shook me for like 2 weeks. Like I'm like,
That's
what
funny.
am I supposed to do? with
Dude, there's this guy, I reacted to one of his videos and he DMCA'd me and then made videos about me, like talking shit. And one of the things that he said was that I have like dollar store t-shirts or something like that. And I like maybe I swear like a week or two later I literally went shopping and bought a bunch of shirts. But they're still like dollar store t-shirts. I mean, he was actually right.
about that?
It was kind of
I
funny.
can't help how many colors, so it's just
Too many colors.
Don't yeah, too many
I
colors.
spent like maybe
Don't
like
do
$100
that.
or $200
No.
on clothes.
Don't use, if I had
After
it
I was
be a
like,
single color.
you know what? When you're right, you're
But
right.
No, just don't read YouTube comments.
I thought you maybe done like a
Yeah.
Don't
rainbow
read
beard or
YouTube
something.
comments. True.
Just like salt and pepper.
I'm not
Just
reading
his
any
face.
of the comments on this video.
It's just my face.
Bye.
All right, we're really going now, everybody. Bye.
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 Bye. That was a good episode. Again, it seems like that they do really enjoy working together, and I think that everything like I don't have anything that I'm like insanely like yo, this is bullshit or whatever about it. So it kind of ships our ships. There's enough of them in the game for me already, and it'd be cool to have a few more, I guess, of the mining variety for me personally, or salvage or something. But aside from that, I don't care. Just for me, it's more what's so cool about this Invictus is it's so underwhelming because I don't care, because there's so many other cooler things to care about in the game, and that is a first, right? It's been a while where I don't think I've ever been able to say that.